Can the Mariners find a way to surprise people? We're back at it again, 30 teams in 30 days, number 21 I believe it is, though let's get to it. Who was brought in? There were a lot of additions. Mallex Smith comes over from Tampa Bay via trade, Jay Bruce from the Mets via trade as well, and then there's Edwin Encarnacion from Cleveland, Domingo Santana from Milwaukee, Omar Narvaez from the White Sox, and also from the Mets, Anthony Swarzak, then a Rule 5 draft pick, Brandon Brennan, and then a few guys brought in on one-year contracts, Tim Beckham, Corey Guerin, and Zach Rosscup, and then Yusei Kikuchi brought in on a 3-year, $43 million contract because the Mariners love their Japanese players, and then there's Hunter Strickland, also brought in on a 1-year contract, so somewhat low-risk additions there. And for players that they lost, Mike Zunino was traded to Tampa Bay, so was Guillermo Heredia, James Paxton traded to the Yankees, Alex Colomé traded to the White Sox, Robinson Cano to the Mets, as well as Edwin Diaz, Ben Gamel to Milwaukee, Gene Segura, Juan Nicasio, and James Pazos to the Phillies, Nelson Cruz to Minnesota, David Phelps to Toronto, Zach Duke to Cincinnati, Gordon Beckham to Detroit, Andrew Romine to Philadelphia, and then Cameron Maybin, Denard Span, and Adam Warren were not brought back. As for re-signings, the only unrestricted free agent that was re-signed was Marco Gonzalez, 2 years, $1.9 million. And now we take a look at the lineup, which is one that I think is actually pretty undervalued. So Mitch Haniger, undoubtedly their best hitter in the lineup. Then you also have a guy like Mallex Smith. He has speed, can get hits, and also get on base. Your prototypical leadoff hitter. Well, what you want out of your leadoff hitter, a guy that's fast and can get on base. And then there's Jay Bruce. He does have a contract here, I believe. Well, I don't think it's this year actually that his contract year is. I think it's next year. Don't have too much faith in him, but with some protection from Edwin Encarnacion, who could have an excellent year in a contract year, potential contract year anyways, I think maybe he could be something, Jay Bruce. But then there's Kyle Seager, only 3 years left of his decline on that big contract. Then Domingo Santana could maybe be a bounce-back candidate. Omar Narvaez can get on base. And then you have Tim Beckham, could be a bounce-back candidate as well. And D. Gordon Fast gets a lot of hits in a good season. Not a guy that draws a lot of walks, though. And then with their bench, David Freitas, not too fond of him. Ryan Healy's pretty much a lesser version of CJ Cron, and Christopher Negron, not very good. And so now with their minor leaguers, Jose Lobaton, not very good. And then you have guys like Shed Lon and Dylan Moore. They both could be okay, but Braden Bishop doesn't look good either. Then you have Daniel Vogelbach, hasn't done anything in the bigs. Joey Carletta could be good, but JP Crawford and Kyle Lewis both look like overhyped prospects, so not too fond of either. And then with their rotation, Kikuchi's probably going to be the one good pitcher, because it's the one good thing that the Mariners do consistently, finding Japanese players. Then there's Mike Leake. He didn't perform well. Marco Gonzalez had his best season but wasn't better than average. And then you have Felix Hernandez. He's fallen off after all these years. And Wade LeBlanc had a revitalization season. And then with their starter depth, Justice Sheffield looks pretty good. Eric Swanson could be okay. And then Max Poffs doesn't look that good. And then Tommy Malone, not very good at all. And then with their bullpen, Hunter Strickland, not very reliable in the pen. Don't trust Anthony Swarzak. Corey Guerin had one good season, and it wasn't last year. Sean Armstrong had a career year. Zach Rosscup is terrible. Ronis Elias had one good season, just like Corey Guerin. Nick Rumbelow, awful. And Brendan Brennan thrusted into the fire very quickly as a Rule 5 draft pick. And then in the minor leagues with their bullpen depth, Dan Altavilla, not so trustworthy. Chasen Bradford is okay. Need to see more out of Matt Festa. Gerson Bautista hasn't gotten it together, and I also need to see more out of Ruben Alanes. And then with injuries, Sam Tuivailala is out through May with Achilles surgery. Could be an important piece to their bullpen to make it not so terrible. And so now we tally it up. Lineup gets a B-, hitting depth C, rotation C+, starter depth C+, bullpen D+, and bullpen depth D-. Pretty unimpressive roster when it comes to their pitching staff. Their starting pitching should be okay, decent. Their bullpen, though, just doesn't look very good at all. And now with their coaching staff, their manager, Scott Servais, pretty solid manager if you ask me. Then hitting coach Tim Laker comes over from Arizona. I mean, last year Arizona wasn't very good outside of a few hitters offensively, but there were some players that were injured a bit, so could be some asterisks there, and plus there is some talent to work with, so we'll see how he does here. Then there's Paul Davis, pitching coach coming over from St. Louis. I think that's a good hiring actually. And then bullpen coach Jim Brower hasn't been bad. The manager gets a grade of a B-. The hitting coach gets a grade of a C. Pitching coach, B-. Bullpen coach, C+. So overall, pretty decent coaching staff, honestly. And so now we take a look at the schedule. For the AL West, they face the Astros 9 times at home, 10 times on the road. Same goes for the Angels. And then with the Rangers, they face them 10 times at home, 9 times on the road. Then with the Athletics, they face them 9 times at home, 8 times on the road, and they start off in Japan. But then with the rest of the AL, they face Baltimore 4 times at home, 3 times on the road. Same goes for Boston and Detroit, as well as Minnesota. And then they face the Yankees 3 times at home, 4 times on the road. Same goes for the Royals. And the rest they face 3 times at home, 3 times on the road. And then with Interleague, San Diego, per usual, 4 times a year, twice at home, twice on the road. Chicago, twice at home, twice on the road. And then with Cincinnati, they have a 3-game set at home, same with St. Louis. And then they go to Milwaukee and Pittsburgh for 3-game sets apiece. So overall, facing the NL Central, not ideal for them because that is the toughest division in all of baseball, if you ask me. And now we take a look at the takes that will be wrong in a few months' time. Bleacher Report's record prediction is 74-88, RotoChamp 77-85, Fangraphs 73-89, Pacoda 74-88, the over-under 74.5 wins, and my prediction is over, not by much, but at 75-87. So overall, I think that this team, if they can get more out of their bullpen than I'm giving them credit, then they could be a pretty good team. Otherwise, they're just going to be a team that blows a lot of leads and is subpar because they get some production out of their offense and decent production out of their rotation, but their bullpen unreliable, which is what happens when you trade away Edwin Diaz, but they're just sort of rebuilding and retooling at the same time is what it seems like they're going for. But overall, I don't expect too much out of the Mariners this season. So that'll do it. This, of course, is going to age very poorly. But, per usual, I will have my personal account at the top, my YouTube account at the bottom. I did change the ad of my personal account. Hopefully I get that up. But that'll wrap this video up. And, like I said earlier, these takes are going to be wrong in a few months' time.